everybody. How are you? How are you? I am very, very happy to see all of you today and all of your beauty and wisdom or something. I don't know. It really doesn't matter how I feel. How do you feel right now at this current time? Do you feel good? Do you appreciate life? Are you scared for your friends who do drugs and, you know, whatever. I gotta stop saying drugs. I gotta find something else to say, so I'll figure it out later. Anyway, we're back once again with another episode of Art and Aesthetically Dark with me, Gwendolyn, and we are on the second half of The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. We are back with the second half of The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, number 1, because I wasn't sure how much I wanted to do for the videos. Honestly, what I was using previous to what I'm using now, I recorded and did all the footage and editing and the voice stuff. I did the original first part actually over 2 years ago. Now I'm thinking about it. Over 2 years ago, I was still living in my old place. And then I just recently decided to get back into it because it was like, you know, I'm wasting my talents here. You know, there are people who are only good at reacting to stuff on the internet. I'm not one of those people. I could react to it. I'm not going to react the way people think I should. And usually people only look for reactions when they're fucking with me. So, and I don't want to be that. I'd rather make my own shit. I'd rather make my own content. I will read a book and tell you guys about it. I'll paint a picture so you have something to look at instead of my fucking mug. Because I'm not the priest, bitch, I promise. But I will promise you that we are at least finishing the story anyway. But I will say, though, that the first half was when I was still using Windows and I was using Sony Vaio, right? That was already done. I use Artix, by the way, video was done all with Kdenlive and Linux, which is why it was way easier for me to put like weird GIFs and stuff in it. Because I'm not saying Sony Vegas, I'm totally being distracted from the video anyway, but it's okay. But it's like, it's not that Sony Vegas was ever difficult, but the time consumingness of like trying to, I don't know, it just feels like it's a lot easier to set things up in Kdenlive. I don't know about rendering them. I've yet to have an hour-long rendering time, considering this video started out as 5 hours and 45 minutes of footage, and honestly, it might be longer than that, I don't know, but we'll see. Anyway, everything that's written has been written within the last like 3 months, give or take, I'll say, just for the story, because me writing the script, talking about just random shit is a lot quicker than me reading a book, but I'm getting lost in the sauce and we don't need this kind of introduction anyway, so let's get started and let's enjoy the show. The Incident of Dr. Lanyon. So more time went on, and I'm not sure the amount of time because I wrote the first part months ago. The second part, not so many months ago, but that's what I'm reading right now, so we're here, and I have the memory of a goldfish, so we're going with it. Anyway, thousands of pounds, the English version of money, it's offered for the arrest of Sir Danvers, unaliver, as his death was seen as an insult to society at large. I mean, technically, to this day, harming the elderly is actually a terrible thing to do. I don't understand why people gotta get aggressive with an old person. Do you realize that they're gonna die already? Did you not know that? Like, it's not, like, why are you rushing this person? Like, they're holding up the line, man. Like, we all get hurt. No one's getting out of the some bitch alive. Okay, but you couldn't wait for this guy. No one ever wants to wait for old people to die. They're just like, let's knock them out now. And it's just like, what is wrong with you? Then again, if I got so old, I'd probably want someone to put me out of my misery too, because I don't think I'd be able to do it. But yeah, if you have to attack an elderly, you probably deserve everything, because it's just like, you're so creepy. But seriously, if they're that old, you're a piece of shit. And I remember at the time when I was writing this particular portion of the story right here, I had just read a story where a caretaker attacked her client, or resident, whatever you want to call it, who was between the ages of 70 and 80 years old, stabbed this old woman in the lug, telling this old woman, let it go, or she grabbed the handle of the knife that was in her chest and whatever, and the worker left her to die. And this old woman held on for 6 hours and survived, just to make sure that this bitch goes to jail out of spite. The worker at the time was in custody. I don't know what happened after that. I'm just happy and proud of this old lady living out of spite. It's just like, I'm not dead yet, bitch. I've been alive too long. I ain't dying from you. Anyway, back to the story. So apparently Hyde had just disappeared into thin air. No one could find this guy. Sorry, I started clapping and I got distracted. For a short little demon dentist of menace, he sure could take off like a toddler in a Walmart. And it was like nobody could find this guy. Everyone was on dude's neck. Everyone was hunting. Every man, including the men of the family of that kid that he river danced on and stuff, they wanted him. The harpies were back shrieking their songs of fucking lamentation and shilling needs. They need to get their wigs fixed. Damn. But there was no avail. No one could find this guy, no matter how hard they tried, no matter how many times or who would look, whether they looked there multiple times, whether it was a different person who did that looking after another person. It's like I was in 89 Bravo back in the military, right? It's like you go to count rounds and like someone gets some number and then like your NCO's like, no, that's not the right number. So they get another like lower enlisted count, same number, and they're like, no, that's not the right number. And you just keep going through it, and then every fucking private, like let's say 50 of them, says the exact same number. They all counted individually. And then the NCO's like, no, that's still not the right number. And then the NCO goes counts and it's the same fucking number. They're like, same thing. Can't find him. Nowhere to be found. The secret number that the NCO had doesn't exist. Don't know where it is. That's how people felt about Hyde. And it seems that since he left the Soho house, it was like the guy never existed. And after a while, Utterson ended up kind of calming down from losing his client from the hands of a villainous midget and decided that, if Danvers had to die to get rid of Hyde, I guess that's a fair trade. And I swear to God, Utterson is such a treat, I swear. But actually, the real reason Utterson feels this way is because suddenly Dr. Jekyll has become a social butterfly, like the good old days. And the good doctor recently started hanging out with friends again. He was throwing parties. He was getting the bitches with his drip. He was donating to charities. He was busy with stuff like helping those in need and working even later than normal and doing even more charity events. And he was in the open and carefree and with the rest of society and matched up good, and everyone was just so happy to have him back. Jekyll even got into religion, which was a total red flag for me. As soon as I read the last part, when I read this book, was the religious aspect, and I was like, oh, feces, my African American, what is this? After I mentioned the whole religious thing, I'm sitting here remembering that a lot of people, especially when they get into, substances they shouldn't. What should I call that? I'm gonna call it something. What the fuck should I call that? What would be better? Oh, chemical compound of strange attributions. I think that would be a better name. Chemical compound of strange attributions. That's what we're gonna call whatever it is he's got. Just to be simpler than me trying to sit there and be like, the D-rugs. Like, that's stupid. The chemical compound of strange attributes is a much more appropriate. It sounds way more mysterious. It just fits my aesthetic just a little bit better. Oh, yeah. So, look at right. A lot of times when I see people start turning to the Lord, right, that's usually because they've either did something or done so many things or so many of the same thing. Their soul is dirty and they want to pretend it didn't happen anymore. And then they want to go to religion and be like, cleanse me of my sins, Lord. Which he does, but what he doesn't mention is that they're still there. You know what I mean? It's just like, you repented and asked the Lord for forgiveness, but you still gotta go and spend about the next 10 years in fucking prison for robbing that bank and pistol whipping that old lady. Didn't I tell you all that leave the elderly alone? No one wants to leave the elderly alone. You're creepy. But in other cases, certain people who have habitual appetites for chemical substances of strange attributes, right? To where they do a lot of things they normally would not have done of a sober mind, but that's not how it works. But we'll get into that part later. So immediately, as soon as I saw the religious part, I was like, okay, what did Jekyll do? What did he do? What did he do? How did you fuck it up, Jekyll? Yeah, I wrote it British. So on the 8th of January, which was a few months after the murder, and I figured this out because I happened to leave a note in my Kindle that said, a few months after the death of an old man. So thanks, Ruckme, for being smart enough to do that, because that's the only way I figured I was smart enough to do that. On the 8th of January, Utterson was at dinner at the dock, and the two locked eyes like old friends would. Or the secretly ambiguously gay duo, but I don't think it was like that. And Utterson was having a blast with all of his friends. Lanyon had even been there, and the three were like best friends all over again, laughing and clinking their glasses, smiling and sharing stories, enjoying others' company, making fun of that one bitch from the bank who just acts like she's way too important for stuff. Trying to convince, like, people, I'm making shit up, by the way. Trying to convince Jekyll to go get a woman and shit. They get a car, well, I don't think cars exist. This is like the 1800s, but I don't know. Remember, this is on the 8th. So 4 days later, on the 12th, Jekyll became a recluse all over again. And was like, fuck the world and all its worth, every inch of planet Earth, and locked himself inside and invited no more visitors again. On the 14th, 2 days later, Poole told Utterson that one visit that the doctor is confined to the house and saw nobody. The next day, on the 15th of January, Utterson came back again and was told, we said no visitors, what did you not hear? And that stuck with him, because he had 2 months of his friend back before he had to withdraw back into hermit status. Totally AFK at this point. Damn shame. Even turned his status to offline mode so no one message him. You know, like, turn the messaging system off. Deleted that app portion off his phone. He don't want to talk to nobody. Which is crazy, because it's just like, you know, people won't understand if you were made a recluse. But you could write them letters. Which is technically, you know, eventually what would happen, but that'll come up. Now, another night, probably the 5th night, I don't care. He had Mr. Guest over as a visitor for the evening, and that wasn't enough of a fix for him, so then later he went to decide to visit Lanyon for the 6th night out. And when Utterson, he's just one of those guys who thinks his friends are always going to be there, and they're going to be roommates and grow old together. I swear, it's kind of cute. Hell, I assume the men were in the stories were actually all bachelors, and that's probably why Utterson was so attached to his friend. This version of Utterson is a bit more careless when it comes to investigation, so that's probably why he's going to see Lanyon, as he is the smartest man in the book. Lanyon is my favorite fucking character, because he's the only one who I don't think fucked up. Lanyon, however, was not in the best of shape. Sure, Lanyon didn't turn him away, but his appearance, like, he looked like a dying mummy, which is weird, because you're only dead when you become a mummy. Because the Egyptians had to take all your stuff out with somehow, and then, like, they wrap you up and shit. But Lanyon looked like he was a mummy, and he was dying. It was just like, who got you, man? Who got you? The life was sucked out of him. And Utterson was confused, horrified by how his friend had become. He literally saw him, like, a fucking week ago. And now he's seeing him like this. His second best friend, next to Jekyll for some reason. He was dying right before his eyes. But it was like not even a week ago. Like, he literally saw this man on the 8th. And this is like 6 days later. It would be like, oh, wait a minute. He tried seeing Jekyll again on the 15th. So this is like probably the 17th or the 18th by this date, I'd assume, from what I wrote down. And so it's been well over a week. Well over a week. But not that long. It was just like, what happened? I just noticed how Lanyon was pale, lifeless, waiting to die. He was decaying, and there was a terror in his eyes that Utterson couldn't exactly trace. But he recognized it immediately in conjunction with his friend's dying physical features. And now Lanyon isn't the man who feared death. Utterson knew that, and I knew that because he's a badass. But there was something that was scaring him to death. This man would rather die than live with the fucking knowledge and sights that he's seen. You know how, like, that's some Cthulhu level. That's some Cthulhu level. Like, you gouge out your own eyes and you slice your own ears off just so you could avoid, like, hearing the voice. And you gouge your eyes out just so you can't remember what you saw. Like, that's some Lovecraftian right there. But he's taking the easy way out. He's just gonna die. He doesn't have to do all the other stuff to get rid of it. But something definitely is, like, making him want to run to the other side. It was quite apparent. And Utterson knew that Lanyon knew something, what was happening to him for sure. Now, Lanyon isn't a man who feared death. Utterson knew that, and so did I, because I think he's a badass. But there was something that was scaring him to death. That was quite apparent, and Utterson knew that Lanyon knew what was happening to him for sure. Because this is terrible looking. This is bad. He does not look good in the colors of death. All gray and ready to go inside. Now, Utterson mentioned Lanyon's condition, and Lanyon strongly announced that he was the dying man. No fears of actually saying that out loud either. And he says he's had a shock to his system and he'll never recover. Probably has a couple weeks left, but he said that he's enjoyed life and doesn't mind it really. Then Utterson brings up Jekyll, saying that he's sick too, and if Lanyon had seen him lately, which is like, why would Lanyon see him when you ain't seen him? But that's what was actually bothering Lanyon. Though he doesn't speak much in details, he does tell Utterson that he doesn't want to hear any more about Jekyll and that he was done with him, but he wouldn't go into any more details about it. And Utterson's like, come on, Lanyon, we've been friends for years, and we won't make new ones. But Lanyon's like, nah, nigga dead to me. You can ask him why. Go ask him. And Utterson's like, but he won't even let me inside to see him. And then Lanyon's like, oh, the little bitch can't show himself? I'm shocked. I'm shocked. Who the fucking guess? And then Lanyon tells him when he dies that Utterson will have his answer. But until then, he doesn't want to talk about Jekyll. If Utterson can't respect that, he can get the fuck out like the doctor did too. Lanyon has no, just so everyone knows, Lanyon has no problem cursing his friends out. That's why I like Lanyon. Lanyon's an honest asshole, and I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that greatly. After Utterson got home, he wrote Jekyll a stern letter that he doesn't like being ignored, and he wants to know why Jekyll and Lanyon had a falling out. You know, he was curious, like, there's things happening in the background and no one's telling him nothing. He was on his last nerve with the subject, which is sad because Utterson just wants to ignore the signs. He really just wants to ignore the signs and go back to what he thinks is normal. That's not happening, boo-boo face. That's not happening. I'm sorry. Well, strangely enough, Jekyll actually did write him back. But nobody mentions the handwriting here, which I find interesting. And he says that he can't fix things with Lanyon, and he doesn't blame him. I'm sorry, what? What does that mean? What could have caused Lanyon to lash out and handgun Jekyll more than normal? But then that leads to the question, what did Jekyll do? Sure, they were at odds with their beliefs and their studies, but what exactly was crossing the line here? And when exactly did Lanyon and Jekyll meet? Could have sworn the last meeting they had was at a party that Jekyll had sponsored, around the 8th or some shit? But there wasn't an argument or anything. They all gotten along and partied like the good old days, but not that hardcore because they're all in their 50s and bedtime is after 9 p.m. But when did we didn't read anywhere in the book that Lanyon and Jekyll met in between time, did we? Interesting. What happened between 8th to now in this current time period? Probably like the 17th or 18th by this point. Maybe even the 20th of January. Really don't know. Very interesting. The doctor continues his letter to say, and I'm gonna quote this. I feel like quoting all of Jekyll because of his hypocrisy drives me nuts. Let me tell you what this letter says that this weirdo sent to Utterson. This is what it says. The quarreling with Lanyon is incurable. I do not blame our old friend, but I share his view that we must never meet. I mean, from henceforth to lead a life of extreme seclusion. You must not be surprised, nor must you doubt my friendship, if my door is often shut even to you. You must suffer me to go my own dark way. I have brought on myself a punishment and a danger I cannot name. If I am the chief of sinners, I am also the chief of sufferers. I could not think that this earth contained a place for sufferings and terrors so unmanning. And you could do but one thing, Utterson, to lighten this destiny, and that is to respect my silence. His silence means something. Did you hear that? Did you hear the disrespect and lack of accountability that came out of this guy's words that I just read out loud to you? Like, oh my god, y'all. Oh my god. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I literally had a flashback of someone playing in my face, and I got all triggered when I actually read his letter the first time. I was looking at it, and I was just like, that's what that bitch said to me, blah, blah. First off, okay, what do you do? What did you do? What did you do, Jekyll? What did you do to cause Lanyon, who's already had an issue with you, decided that you're so dead to him that he has to die too? Because that's a level of you're dead to me. You are so dead to this man, he wants to leave the earth first before you go. His spirit is like, I know. His spirit is like, we don't have to do any more of this. This shouldn't have even, happened to you. We're taking you home to the Lord. You ain't gotta suffer no more. Live with this, bro. Come with us. Spared and shit. Why do you have to be secluded after a week or so? Party with friends. Not you partied for a week, but it's been over a week since you did that, right? What have you done to be rewarded by such a dangerous situation? And a punishment to boot. Why does Jekyll tell Utterson that his silence means something when there's no substance to it? Sounds like he's possessed with the spirit of eye-doves with that letter. I swear, I don't know why people never liked to read, because when you actually read this book, you realize it would have been better to get away from a man like Jekyll. He is so established, so popular, and such a socialite amongst his community, yet he cannot take accountability for shit. He doesn't even tell Utterson what happened. But then again, neither did Lanyon. But then again, Lanyon isn't dying for a dumb reason either. Kinda. Now, Utterson is shocked by this because it's only been a week, a little over a week, more than 7 days. since he saw this motherfucker, and now he wants to act like Hyde is in the picture again. Except he is, but he isn't. We'll get there. Utterson is low on friends, the same way I ended up low on money whenever I visit Michael's. I feel for him, since he cares so much about Jekyll and Lanyon. Oh, speaking of Lanyon, he does die, like, later. He goes to his bed for a week, and almost a month later, he died. The night after the funeral, Utterson is a hot mess. His client's dead, his only friend with logic and a bad attitude, dead. Jekyll is secluded himself and locked himself into his home. Meanwhile, Utterson is crying himself to sleep after he locked himself in his room with a bunch of legal paperwork like a schoolgirl dumped by her very first boyfriend. He eventually pulls himself together, and an envelope addressed to him that was sent by Lanyon has arrived. And its instructions is that it's for G.J. Utterson's eyes alone. And if Utterson is dead by the time the letter is received, to destroy the letter entirely so no one else can read it. Wait, why? So you sent a letter to the dude, but the dude had ended up dead before you? Or before the letter got there, it was just supposed to be killed. Okay. Now, the instructions were ominous enough and concerning enough for Utterson to make him realize this is somehow going to connect it. It's just too fucking weird. And how he's probably going to lose him as well. The foreshadowing is right there. He just doesn't know it technically, like, Jekyll, that's kind of going to be his fault. Not really. Because Poole had the axe, but we'll get there. Then Utterson, after looking over this envelope, is just like, fuck this, and cracks open the letter. Only to find out that there is another letter inside that instructs him that this letter shouldn't be opened until the death or disappearance of Dr. Jekyll Hyde. Wait. What do you mean the disappearance or death of Hyde? Did I say Edward Hyde? I mean Dr. Henry Jekyll. I'm so confused. Utterson was confused as well. Jekyll did disappear, just like he did before. But now he's got something from Lanyon mentioning this exact same scenario, but he wasn't allowed spoilers or commentary from side characters. They somehow... Utterson decided that Hyde must have had something to do with it, and that's why Lanyon had penned this entire mystery letter to Utterson. Which he's not wrong about, but not in the way he thought. But I have a theory about what could have happened after the fact. But it's a theory, and we'll get there. Utterson stuffs the letter into his safe and just goes to bed because, fuck this too. Like, honestly, just fuck this in general was a whole mood at this point, and only sleep could dissipate it. So after a while, Utterson didn't care for the company of Jekyll as much as he did before. Even when he would call to check up on him, he was happy that he never answered or even called back. But the book really doesn't tell us why. Like, it doesn't give us any inkling that maybe, like, Utterson suspected Jekyll of doing something to Lanyon. It doesn't explain that, like, maybe he just decided, oh, well, this guy's just playing my emotions, this is not really my friend, nothing about that. But you do gather this sense of uneasiness and feels, because if I kept trying to contact someone and they sent me a letter being like, respect my silence because I'm not talking to anybody, I would be a little uneasy trying to contact them new, for real, because it's just like, okay. Well, I mean, when you really think about it, Jekyll did tell him to kindly fuck off, so I guess he should be cool with doing that. But anyway, he also spent more time chit-chatting with Poole whenever we tried to visit, so him and Poole started getting close, be friends, which I don't know why they weren't before, because, like, wait, what? He's worked for Jekyll for like 20 years. How would Poole and Utterson not be cool with each other at this point? Like, they're third-party bros at this point. They're third-party bros. He would visit. He talked to Poole. It was nice to have a conversation because it wasn't outside or down in all the pits like what's going on with Jekyll. But it turns out that Jekyll wouldn't come out very much at all, if he did. He stayed in the cabinet in the laboratory and slept down there so he didn't have to leave, too. Apparently, he didn't even read like he used to, and everything was silent like he were dead or something. Which absolutely is just creepy as fuck to hear about. So Utterson just stopped coming eventually. He just stopped coming around, if at all. The incident at the window. It was on a Sunday. I'm not sure which month, but it was on a Sunday. And this was when Utterson and Mr. Enfield were doing their usual walk. When they ended up at the by street again, and they stopped to look at the door, the Blackmail Door, with the strange story that started this whole strange series of horrible events. Enfield said that the story was over now and that Hyde was long gone. And Utterson replies, nah, there's gotta be more. Did I ever tell you about the time I played hide and seek and caught that motherfucker? He was as gross as you told me he was. Stank ass. Enfield mentions that you can't look at Hyde without feeling like you need a Ralph, and then he tells Utterson how dumb he felt when he finally learned about the door being the back door to Jekyll's house. Sure, Enfield. Sure. Mr. I mind my damn business. You had no idea, Lionel. Yeah, all of a sudden he didn't know. This man is known throughout town, but he doesn't know that Jekyll lives there. Okay. Utterson takes the gaslighting and matches it with convincing Enfield to go and visit Jekyll's window. Anyone remember Melissa Etheridge? Come to my window, come outside, play in the light of the moon, or London lamps, depending. But that moment kind of gave me that. Not romantic wise, but the song fit the theme of it. That was probably the song that was playing in Utterson's head as they were walking up to the window. It's like as soon as I mentioned Jekyll's name, here he comes, like a bat signal or whatever. Now, I'm not saying Utterson's gay, not at all. I just have old 2000s fanfiction.net tendencies that spring up every once in a while whenever I write something like the script. So please forgive me. I don't do that anymore. I'm not like a teenage girl who feels as though my destiny is to see Vincent Valentine and Sid Highwind get along so swimmingly but be really awkward together. Like, don't mind me. I was young. You know what's interesting about Utterson? He doesn't listen to shit. Not even himself. You know how he said he'd let his brother go to the devil? I have no idea if he has a brother, so I'm just going to assume he doesn't because the book never mentions it. It barely mentioned that Enfield and him are cousins, but that's coming up. I don't know, man. If he doesn't have brothers, Lanyon and Jekyll might be the closest individuals he would consider his brothers, if not family. And he is not letting his brother Jekyll go his own way. Utterson would stalk Jekyll to save his life. He would never let the devil get to him, but this is probably why PTO orders exist today. Like, no one even noticed that Utterson was watching for Hyde that entire time. He was in the streets looking for him. Probably why Jack the Ripper got away with what he did. Like, nobody, not even Jekyll or Hyde, nobody realized this. No one noticed him, no one saw it. Like, situational awareness was not a big thing back then. So, the sun was just about to go down, and the air was heavy and damp. And there, in the window, was Juliet. I mean, fuck Jekyll, my bad. He was sad looking and all that, letting the outside air fill his nose and hair, dreaming of the days of parties and cheese fondue. And Utterson's surprised, just like, damn! You're alive! Yay! And Jekyll's like, yeah, no, I'm not that well, though. Actually, I've been rather short as of late. You'll get it later. Utterson is like, well, this is Enfield, my cousin. Enfield, this is Henry Jekyll, my very best friend. Henry, why don't you come down and take a stroll with us? We'll talk about that one time he placed a bet on Lanyon eating 24 large pizzas at one time. And Jekyll's like, I can't do that, man. The pizza margherita version hasn't been invented. I'm not into just tomatoes and cheese, but I'm glad to see that I'm glad to see you're out here. Missed you. I'd invite you guys up, but the place is a mess. Might be dead body or two in there. You don't want to see that. She got what she deserved. But then Utterson says that they can talk right where they are. Jekyll doesn't need to leave, and they can just sit there and chat at the window like they've been doing. And Jekyll, it seems like he's so happy. He's like, oh, he would love that. He loved it. And then they got cock-blocked. Jekyll's smile went from straight happiness and pure joy and delight in seeing what made him who he was, which was a friend, to one of absolute terror, and was staring straight at the two men in horror before locking the window and disappearing behind the glass. Probably pulled curtains, but I'm not sure. So Utterson and Enfield are just kind of standing there, feeling guilty or sad, or I'm not even sure, or even almost responsible for what happened. They don't even know what happened. It's confusing. It's just like, what the fuck just happened? Like, I feel so bad for Utterson in this situation. He was just trying to be a friend or get his friend back or something like that. It's not like he was doing anything to be weird, and he was kind of respecting Jekyll's wishes, but that's still his friend, which I totally get. I have been that friend where I would try to be a friend for some. Like, interestingly enough, I actually did have a friend like that. Well, I was their friend. They weren't my friend. It took me a minute to figure it out. Actually, it took me, like, seeing how they behaved when they got, well, I won't go into too many details, but I know them and their partner had a lot of issues. Then her partner cheated on her. And I know a lot of people are like, don't cheat, just leave, and all that, and it's wrong, and blah, 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 and honestly, that's just fairy tale thinking, like, I'm over 40, I'm like 40 years old, man, I know, that's not how relationships work, but, like, at the same time, it's like, you can't treat someone poorly all the time, and then think they're going to be loyal to you. That's not how people work at all. It's actually kind of crazy. And me and a bunch just found out about it. She wanted me to understand I was nothing but company. And when I was like, dude, do you want to like hang out and do something to take your mind off of it? I don't want company. Didn't want none, dude. It was just like, oh, so we're not cool like that. And then I just left that person alone. And then that friend just ran into all sorts of horrible situation stuff that happened afterwards. And then they wanted to be suddenly friends, and I was just like, I'm not in the mood for company. That's actually how that ended. Like, I was coming to her, and then all of a sudden she wanted a friend, and this is like, no ma'am, I don't need company. I do not need company. It's not like I needed a friend, but still, it's just like, girl. Like, that's the one thing I learned with age, at the age of 40, right? If someone doesn't want to be your friend, leave them alone. If they want to be your friend, and you get such energy, you should probably leave them alone too. And Utterson values his friends he's had, or has. Had. My bad. But at some point, you do find out who your friends are, minus the country music. That part is not necessary. But just as a side note, the country music getting introduced to BeatStar, I couldn't play that game anymore. The last night, Utterson by his fire, cuddled in a blanket, holding a cup of hot cocoa on a cold, dreary night. Very demure. Very aesthetic. But then, he gets a knock, and it's from Poole. Wait, Poole? Yeah, Jekyll's butler? The main man of the house? Shouldn't he be at the house taking care of shit? Like, what the fuck? Why is Poole here? Why are you here, sir? So, Utterson lets him in. Well, he asks what the fuck's going on. Then, Utterson realizes that there is something very wrong, invites him in, and asks him if, something happened to Jekyll, because none of the motherfuckers in that house have come by. Not once since the doctor turned into Britney Spears, all walked up in his house, in his own little world. He has Poole take a seat and give him a glass of wine, then asks him to calm down and tell him what's going on. And Poole begins to talk about how the doc has shut himself up again, and he's scared of what's happening. And even worse, if the doctor dies, he might be happy about it. You know how the fuck that is? Your most loyal servant who's been with you for, 20 some odd years, for a good minute, he's so scared something happens to you, he wishes that you were dead. It's kind of like when Lanyon decided that Jekyll's so dead to him, he had to die first. You're dead to me, you'll be dead to me, and I'll be gone. And you have to live with that. That's some crazy nonsense. Kind of narcissistic, but at the same time, that wasn't Lanyon's fault. So he can have it. I don't know. It's just crazy to believe a butler who would love his master dead only because he already is, in a sense? Yeah, I guess so. So Utterson asks what he's afraid of, and Poole says he's been shitting bricks for a week, but he can't deal with it anymore. It was obvious this dude has been stressed the fuck out. He is so stressed out that he didn't even take a drink of that wine. He just held the glass without even registering any relief from the fear that possessed him in that moment. That is actually a normal reaction to fear. See, what it is like, imagine something crazy happened to you and you can't believe it happened, and then on the other side of that, there's somebody who did a horrific crime and they know that it happened. They can believe it, but they have to play the role, right? You, in your traumatic response, someone can hand you a cigarette or a drink, and you will be so rattled and so messed up, you won't even think about trying to relieve your feeling. Like, sometimes your adrenaline can be going, and you could be feeling all sorts of fucking feelings and all anxiety. The registration of alleviating some of that to your brain is like, I can't do that right now. I need to be alert. I need this. I need that. A lot of times, when people don't take substances, like if something fucked up happens to you and you don't even think about wanting a cigarette, because I'm a former smoker, you are terrified. There's no way I'd be able to smoke a cigarette. I don't think I would even be conscious of a cigarette. Poole has a glass of wine, but he's still freaking out. He's even thinking of calming his nerves with it. He's so freaked out, which that to me is like, yeah, this is some serious shit. So Utterson eggs him on, and Poole finally says that he thinks something happened, something bad, something's going on. It has to do with Jack. And Utterson, whose imagination and lack of deductive reasoning skills has had him on pins and needles with worry this entire story, starts asking what the fuck does he mean. Poole says foul play, and Utterson acts like a shocked parrot, and then asks the butler what he meant by what he said. Utterson has a good idea about what he meant, but the differences, I don't know. I just can't take Utterson seriously right now. Like, he has been suspecting this very thing happening the entire book, but now he doesn't know what's going on. Did he need someone else to confirm what was going on? Well, yeah, he probably did, because he has, honestly, in this book, he never really tries to, go to, the only person he gets verification about blackmail from is Jekyll. And Jekyll is a fucking liar. throughout the entirety of this book, so I don't trust a damn word he says. Lanyon didn't know about the will. No one seems to know about anything here, but now Poole says that he can't say what it is, but he asks for Utterson to follow him to Jekyll's house to do some retcon work. All them Splinter Cell speed runs Utterson's pride himself on over the years are finally going to pay off. It's just them knees, man. Get so old, they make creaking sounds like trees. But Poole, he's ready to go see some real shit. So Utterson grabs his hat and coat, and he can see that Poole is happy as a pig in shit with that lawyer coming with him back to Jekyll's house. So the book describes the world outside of Utterson's door as a wild, cold, seasonable night of March. So we're all the way in March. Well, it's like a month after Lanyon got sick, which is a month after they last saw Jekyll, so that makes sense. The moon is pale because she needs some more iron. The wind was blowing so hard that the men could hardly talk or even hear each other like all that blowing. All that. I'm just stuttering like my dad. That's horrible. The streets were empty, and Utterson found himself wishing there were witnesses for what was to come next for the two men. The further they got to Jekyll's place, the more the trees seemed to violently thrash in the strong winds. Poole at some point had a red handkerchief he was using to wipe his face, but not of sweat. He was actually freaking out in his head and was using the handkerchief out of habit. He was pale with fear, losing more color in his skin as they got closer and closer. This man is terrified. He probably would have pissed his pants if it was raining, but it didn't say anything about rain, so that makes it a little weird. And from what I know about England and a few places, including Sheffield and London, is that it's always rainy and drowsy and dark outside. I don't know if there's a lot of sunlight, really. I don't know if it's because they live near the ocean, or the whole industrial revolution, or the fact that they had their teeth thrown in the water and they never got over it. I don't know. There's just a darkness that hangs over everything. Anyway. When we get to Jekyll, Poole says, God grant there be nothing wrong, when he knows damn well there's something fucking wrong here. All these men, for all my life, have said women are delusional. I am a woman, and I'm here with this book, and I have this book, where every man lives in denial, and I just want to say that as a woman, because I know I'm delusional, but at least I don't lie to myself about bad situations like these characters do. I'm in my own little world, but that's a protected bubble. Everything out here is sus. Anyway, Poole knocks on the door carefully. Why? I don't know. He lives there. But he must have truly been freaked out by what was happening, so he had to politely knock on his own door. That's crazy. So there was a voice that calls out, asking if it's Poole returning. He says, for sure, Shorty, open the door. And they go inside to the hall where it's all bright and lit up, and everyone who works there is gathered, freaked out, and ready to run away. Okay, but how long and why have they been living like this, really? Well, it's been like 2 to 6 months since all this really started. Maybe October? I can't remember. Let me look real quick. Okay, so Danvers was unalive back around sometime in October, I think the 8th. Jekyll lost his shit again around the 8th of January. And then Lanyon passes away like a month later. And now we're in March. Mind you, Danvers was taken out a year after Hyde stomped the yard on a small child. This is 2 years in the making and nothing happened until the last 6 months of the program? I'm not even sure that any of this could have been avoided by Utterson in any regard. It's not even as much that it's Hyde as it is Jekyll who's the real problem in the story. But that will be discussed much later. But for some reason, the housemaid decided this was a good time to start crying hysterically, hollering, "Bless God, it's Mr. Utterson!" Which is like, what did you expect him to do? I know that he can call the cops and he's lawyer stuff, but y'all could have called the cops. If everyone is this freaked out, why isn't anyone getting the police? Yeah, I know phones just came out, but can someone at least find a woman who just screams so someone can get the cops? Now, the maid almost took him into her arms like a hero, but Utterson mentioned how unprofessional it was, that all these servants and maid are just here, not doing their job, looking like they came from a Juggalo concert. He even mentions how Jekyll wouldn't be happy with it. And all of the help gets super quiet. I'm annoyed that Utterson decided that now is the time to be a manager. Because it's just like, first off, they're not on the clock. Like, it's late in the night. I'm assuming it's late in the night. If Poole can come over to come get you, I'm assuming everyone's off shift. Like, what the fuck? Poole explains that everyone is afraid after everything that's been happening, but not afraid enough to get the police yourselves, but okay. Everyone was quiet, and then the maid decided now was the time to scream again. And this time, Poole almost backhanded her into silence, telling her to hold her tongue with such ferocity that his dentures almost fell out and his accent came out in full force. Don't know what kind of accent, but whatever. Everyone else looked into the inner door like they were expecting a monster to arrive, but nothing happened. Like, what? Why is everyone so quiet, and who do they not want hearing them? Poole gets the knife boy to hand him a candle. I swear, back in the day, there were so many jobs for just little shit. Anyway, but he begs Utterson to follow him. The two travel through the back garden, and as they move, Poole tells him that Utterson should go unnoticed, but he needs the man to hear what happens when the butler knocks on the good old Doc's cabinet door. For a minute, Utterson lost his nerve, but regained it as quickly as one almost tripping over their own feet. I am one of those people who trip on my own feet, so I can see how it happened. The two entered a laboratory building through the surgical theater down to the foot of the stairs. Then Poole had Utterson stand against the wall outside of the view of whoever was on the other side of the cabinet door and proceeded to knock. Poole announced that Mr. Utterson is stopping by, all while making sure to motion to the lawyer to listen very keenly to the answer given. The voice behind the door came out with a "What? I'm busy." And then Poole thanked the voice for being annoyed with the question and proving his point. Poole grabbed the candle, and he and the lawyer were rushing back to the kitchen. There, Poole asked him, "Do you think that was Jekyll?" And Utterson was like, "So, things have changed a bunch around here, yeah." That's not what he asked him. So Poole gets annoyed with this answer, of course, and explains that he has worked for Jekyll for over 20 years, and the voice behind the door is not his master. That he is sure that his master was made away with 8 days prior to dragging Utterson here. That since then, he and the rest of the servants have heard this thing that's taken Jekyll's place, begging to God and heaven for mercy. That's crazy, man, is what Utterson replies. So, if someone did unalive Jekyll, why would the murderer stay here instead of running away? That doesn't make much sense. Oh my god, is Utterson using deductive reasoning skills? Yay! Well, Poole countered this with an answer. He said that for the last week, this person, or whatever it is, behind the cabinet door has been crying out for some sort of medicine that he can't seem to get a hold of. Usually, Jekyll would write his orders and leave them thrown on his stairs while he worked. The notes were still coming, but nobody saw Jekyll. The food that's left for him is always snatched up when nobody is around to see the person taking it. The orders are coming up to 3 times a day, sending Poole to different wholesale chemists and apothecaries all over London. Sometimes he would get the disrespect the writer of the order deserved. And whenever Poole did bring something back, the next order would be more of a complaint where the item needed returning because it was impure. Then another order would come in to get the same damn thing, but from a different firm. Utterson asked Poole if he has one of the papers, and luckily the butler does. And the letter says, and I quote, "Dr. Jekyll presents his compliments to Messieurs Mott. He assures them that their last sample is impure and quite useless for his present purpose. In the year 18... Dr. J purchased a somewhat large quantity from Messieurs M. He now begs them to search with the most He now begs them to search with the most scrupulous of care, and should at any time any of the same quantity be left, forward it to him at once. Expense is no consideration. The importance of this to Dr. J can hardly be exaggerated." Remember that one scene in Tropic Thunder where Jack Black was tied to the tree and everyone found out the one dude is gay, and then Jack Black was like, "Untie me from this tree, I'll suck your dick. I'll suck your dick. Just if you untie me and help me find my chemical compounds, the strange attributes, I'll suck your dick, dude." Yeah, that's what it's giving, right? That's what it's giving. That's actually what it's giving. Worse, some of the writer's anger came through the page, and the rushed and loosely written "For God's sakes, find me something old" made this letter seem like it wasn't composed nor as genuine as it first seemed. Utterson mentions the note is weird and asks how Poole came to open it. Poole's like, "No, that wasn't me. That was the guy who works at Moz. He was pissed and threw it right back in my face. I don't blame him, because I read it and I would have thrown it in my face too. I probably would have fought Jekyll myself if the bastard would leave his fucking room, though. But he won't, so the beating has to wait for another goddamn day." Utterson remark is that it is the doctor's handwriting, and Poole agrees, but then tells Utterson to focus, because it's not the handwriting that's important. What's important is that Poole has seen the motherfucker that's the problem hiding behind the good doc's door. So Utterson asks who. Poole tells him that the other day he was coming from the garden to the theater, probably to go get yelled at by another chemist vendor, when he saw that the cabinet door was open and Poole could see him on the far end of the room near some crates. he looked up when he saw Poole, and he gave out a cry and went up the stairs and into the cabinet. Poole was just standing there with his hair standing on end, and he was left asking a slew of questions that just didn't make any sense. Whoever it was that Poole saw couldn't have been Jekyll. Why would his master hide from him? And like, it doesn't make any sense. Why would his master hide from him? Are you trying not to pay me, motherfucker? Because how am I supposed to get paid? Which, fun fact, back then, servants and slaves actually lived off their master. Like, that was your job, and that's also where you live. That's why a lot of servants had their own quarters and shit, too. Just so you know. Just so you know. Just so you know. So anyway, Utterson as usual tries to make it sound like there's something medically wrong with Jekyll. I would say so, since he's hitting up chemists like dealers he's burnt bridges with. Maybe he needs time to recover, Utterson suggests. And now this is the second time that Poole had to resist backhanding someone. Poole explains that Jekyll is a tall, fine build of a man. He's a man's man. And the guy that happened to be there was like a dwarf. In fact, he makes it clear that he's been with Jekyll and been his butler for over 20 years and has never seen that man appear that way. Even if he were sick, he wouldn't be that small, nor would he want in fear of his own servant. Even if he did owe him money. This is nigga Jekyll money. You better pay me my shit, motherfucker. This is why I'm looking for you, Jekyll. Where's my cut? Where is my cut? Utterson sees Poole's conviction, and he tells him it will be his sworn duty to become the first lawyer paladin in the history of London. And then he says that it is his duty to break into the door. Poole is pleased with this type of violence. They have chosen violence. Utterson asks who should start on the quest, and Poole is like, we are! And Utterson is like, we are? And Poole is like, well, why not? There's even an axe in the theater and a kitchen poker we could use to do damage. Hell, we could probably find a busty flower girl to play the healer if we promise to help build her stupid fucking wagon. And Utterson's all like, hell yeah, hood rat activities or go. He asks Poole if he understands that the two men were walking into danger, and Poole's all like, fuck yeah. It's about fucking time, let's do this shit. So Utterson lets him have the axe, but that's beside the point. He decides to cut the bullshit and straight up asks Poole if it's possible he recognized the stranger locked in the cabinet. And Poole tells him that he's 100% certain, but it's Hyde. He doesn't know, but it's Hyde. It's Hyde. He knows it's Hyde. Utterson knows it's Hyde. The reader knows that it's Hyde. We all know that it's Hyde. And now Utterson's playing Mr. Seek. He reminds Utterson, though, if he had known Hyde had a key to the back door around the time of the murder. And then he asked Utterson if he ever met Hyde. And Utterson's like, yeah, once. I didn't like him. And Poole was excited to have some trauma bond over this horrible impression Hyde has always put on anybody who exposed him to it. Honestly, Poole needs to go talk to that maid at the Soho house, because that should be his boo. She got spirited. Utterson admits to feeling the same way. And Poole says that even though he can't prove it, the feeling he got from seeing that disgusting figure before they rushed to the cabinet was the same feeling he got from Hyde, and that's how he knows it's him. Utterson consoles Poole by telling him he believes that Henry's dead. Jesus fucking Christ, Utterson! Just jump me to fucking conclusions after spending the entire book being indecisive as fuck, and that the killer is definitely in the cabinet for some reason. I mean, there's no reason not to think that he's in the cabinet, but it's still strange why he won't leave the cabinet, you know? They then call for Bradshaw, the footman, who was nervous as fuck, and Utterson had to talk him down. He tells the footman that the three of them were going to get into the cabinet zombie style if it comes down to it, and if anything goes bad, that Utterson's good name could take a hit. It's always good to know you have a rich motherfucker on your side so you can get away with like crimes. Isn't that the problem today? Wait a minute. Isn't that the problem today? So people are, and even in this book, are getting away with like breaking and entering, but as long as I guess someone has the name, the reputation, and the money to deal with the shit, everything's cool. Isn't that the problem today? In the year, 2026? Mind you, I'm recording this on the 14th. I don't know when this is going to be up, though. I have to edit and stuff. But still, today's the 14th. I don't know when this is coming out. I just know things are happening. But somehow there's a fourth person, a boy, it might be Knife Boy, and he's assigned to go with Bradshaw around the corner with some ass-beating sticks, and then wait 10 minutes as the laboratory door to beat some ass some more. Poole and Utterson were going to go to the cabinet door to confront the monster inside who might have done away with the good dog. Utterson goes back through the theater where they could hear the quiet footsteps that fell behind the door of the doctor's cabinet, and that tread back and forth on the wooden floor. Poole tells Utterson in a hushed voice that the steps go on all day, and most most of the night. That the only time the pace is interrupted is when an order from one of the main drug dealers, the chemist of London, that's the only time when he's stopped. He claims it must be a guilty conscience for keeping the assailant up all day and night. Then the butler asks the lawyer if the footsteps sound anything like his master. Poole says that his master walks like a black woman who is your upstairs neighbor. Loud, strong, stomping everywhere he walks. These steps, though, are lighter, much slower than Jekyll, like a dainty forest elf with skin like milk. Utterson sighed and could only ask, can it get any more obvious what's going on here? Then Poole tells Utterson that he heard the thing behind the door weeping once, which confused Utterson greatly. Then he said the thing was weeping like a woman, and it was so much that Poole almost wanted to cry as well. A shared sorrow, if you will. So, the 10 minutes were up, and Utterson and Poole were ready for battle. Two men crept closer to the cabinet where they sat, the candle nearby for light, and they could hear the soft footfalls of the footstep that was behind the door. And then everything was silent. And then Utterson struck his best ace attorney pose and yelled, "Jekyll, come outside!" None came of it. So Utterson was like, "Bro, ain't no one seen you in weeks. Now you don't even talk to your staff. I'm gonna come in if I have to, but you're gonna come out of there if you're actually in there. Either way, open the door or we have an axe." Then a familiar foreign voice came from behind the door to say, and I quote,
"Utterson, for God's sakes have mercy."
"Stranger danger," Utterson said, ordering Poole to attack the door. Poole used his limit break and used malicious compliance that does about 2,000 hit points of attack, even though the door does have a 550 point resistance to HR complaints. He can still get in. The first strike did the job, and the cries of the animals came from the door of the cabinet. And that just encouraged Poole more. Now he hitting shit. Now he likes his violence. He's not a civilized man. He is an animal. And the door creaked and ached and cried out with each strike from the blunt metal. It felt like the entire cabinet was about to be shaken down with 4 hard blows from an axe. However, that door still held up till the 5th string, and then that heavy door was ripped from the hinges and fell inward onto the carpeted floor, or the carpet inside. Either way, there was a loud thud from it, I'm sure. So Poole and Utterson suddenly want to look shocked at what they did. Well, technically what Poole did, but semantic. The candle surprisingly wasn't blown out from that, and the quiet after all the chaos had both men standing still for a minute. And there inside the cabinet, the fire was going and cackling as it should. The kettle was whistling or getting ready to. Papers are on the table, all neat, and a couple drawers were open. Fixins for a hot tea were set out, and it didn't seem like anything out of the order. If it wasn't for the axe action, this would have been another quiet night in London. Then, in the middle of the cabinet floor, lay the body that was still twitching, but obviously death. They turned over the body to see that it was indeed Edward Hyde, with his face all contorted and shit from a poisoning he possibly took right when Poole attacked the door. The vial was crushed, cutting his hand. His face showed a story of poison. Utterson was just upsetting spaghetti at this point. After announcing that they were too late to bring justice and all he could do now is try to find out what happened to Jekyll's body. So, the men started playing Blue's Clues and started looking around the theater, as it's the biggest part of the building, and then the corridor, and then a bunch of closets, and then the cellar where there was a bunch of lumber and a weird surgical stuff. Because the building used to belong to a surgeon before Jekyll got a hold of it, but most of the area they searched hadn't been touched in months. Most doors and knobs and handles and entrances were actually covered in dust and cobwebs from months, if not years, of lack of use, but there was no leads of where Jekyll's body is buried. Poole assumes he must be buried somewhere in the corridor, but Utterson assumes that he could have fled before being taken out by Hyde, and then looked to the by-street door that Hyde had once used, and there they found the key. But it was rusted over and destroyed, stomped on it, and the door itself was locked. It hadn't been used either. In fact, by the look of the key, it hadn't been used since Danvers' murder, which makes sense, but it doesn't. Hyde had this key. He was using it to get in the door. The key is on the inside of the door. So, you're telling me that Poole and everybody else in this house, all the servants, didn't see Hyde at one point in time sneak into the house? Because how the fuck did the key end up on the inside? This dude was on the... That doesn't even make sense. How the fuck did this dude get the key on the inside and still manage to get out the door? Like, you gotta think, back in the day, it wasn't like you could just close the door and it'll automatically lock when we have doors now. You literally had to use a particular key to lock that door because it wouldn't do it on its own. The mechanisms were very technical, very steampunk-like. So, That's why I'm sitting here questioning it, because it's like, unless that doesn't make any sense. Why would he stomp on the key on the inside of the door? Because I would always make it seem like he never left. Poole mentions that it looks like it was destroyed by someone stomping on it, which is what I said earlier. But it would make me immediately think Poole conspired with Hyde and the partnership went bad. But the entire staff is scared of what's going on, so that suspicion wouldn't last long to begin with. Also, Poole was the one who went to get him, and even he was confused at the power of the fucking axe and malicious compliance, man. You know what I mean? Some things are just very disturbing. The same must have been for Utterson, because he was confused as hell about all of this. And both men basically looked at one another and were disturbed by what they were looking at, or if anything made any sense at all. The two went back to the cabinet, strolling from the stairs with a sulky attitude, and is still pretty shook about the dead body on the ground. Actually, how are they going to explain the body? Like, what did this guy take anywhere? Are they even going to bother doing an autopsy, or just going to throw him in an unmarked grave? I would just burn the body. Well, no, because then people would have to breathe that in. You can't necessarily throw them in chains and some water, because that's just going to contaminate the drinking water. It's London. I don't know how they're doing. But then they eventually start looking around, and there was on the tablet. I'm not sure what they're going to do in this, but that's on them. So they started to look around again in the cabinet. And there was one table where someone was doing a whole bunch of science. Aperture science, that is. Sorry, I'm a fan of Poole. Portal. Not Poole. Poole's cool, but he's not as cool as Lanyon. But Portal is my shit. Poole mentions that what was on the table was the same drug that he's been hounded for at least a week by his former living body, pretending to be his master, that was now on the floor, still twitching a little bit. Two men looked around even more, paid attention to the fact that the fire was nice and toasty, with an easy chair pulled close. There was tea prepared and ready for consumption. The kettle was whistling. There were books, and one in particular was open. Utterson could see that Jekyll wrote in this book as well, but he was confused. Jekyll used to praise the particular book he picked up, right? Yet he had written all sorts of things that confirms even more that he's a liar, strangely enough. Utterson is shocked because all the stuff that's written in this book is a blasphemy against the very principles that Jekyll would gush about. I mean, he knew this because Jekyll would talk about how much he loved this book in particular, but he wrote a whole bunch of crazy shit in it. It's just like, what the fuck? Then they notice what they call a shovel glass in the book, but I assume it's like a standing mirror that was aimed so low that the two men had to slightly stoop down to look at their reflections. All these men are tall. All these men are tall, and none of them are married, by choice. Poole suggested the mirror has seen some things, but then Utterson has had a better question to ask after that, which is, why does Jekyll have a mirror in his work area? I mean, sure, the cabinet is almost like a man cave, but this is also a study area where he does his scientific shit. Why would he need a mirror in this room? Awkward. Eventually, they turn to the desk and see a bunch of paperwork and bills and letters from the church to see what he's bringing for the Bible brunch on Wednesday for the men's group. There, a letter for Utterson was sitting, waiting, knowing that it'll be picked up. Utterson, finally deciding that his character had impulsivity as a flaw, tears open the letter when several more things fall out. He didn't even check to see if there were instructions. But then again, who knows? Because, Lanyon at least gave him a warning about what was happening. Jekyll, he just hasn't seen, so he's just freaking out. But at the same time, I guess after you find a dead body in a room, you really don't have time for instructions. You just gotta go. I think that's the best way of putting it. The first thing to fall out was a will. In fact, it was the will that was written the exact same insanity that he had rejected the first time Jekyll had tried to give this to Utterson. However, instead of Edward Hyde being the one to inherit from Jekyll, one Gabriel John Utterson was named instead. Wait. Utterson is now the beneficiary of Jekyll's will. Why? He looks to Poole, who is also confused as fuck. Then back to the paper, then to the dead body. Utterson's all like, dude, I'm so confused. Like, nigga, I didn't even like me. He hissed at me the first time I met him, like a whole cat, angry, surprised. I surprised him and shit, I guess. At least he didn't shit his pants. But he must have been super pissed at Henry for making me his son. And Poole's like, son, sir? Yeah, I'm the son of a bitch who just solved this mystery, Utterson said. The next paper he picked up was a note from Jekyll himself, and he noticed the date, and he was so happy. Utterson calls out to Poole with joy in his voice that Jekyll had been alive, and from what the note had indicated, that very day, Utterson assumes he fled. But for why, he wasn't sure and assumed that the body was on the floor, and then he assumed that the body on the floor was a self-checkout. But Poole asked why doesn't he just read the note, and the lawyer said that he's scared of what it will say. After a couple of breaths and way too short of a silence, Utterson turns his eyes to the note and begins to read as follows. My dear Utterson, when this shall fall into your hands, I shall have disappeared. Under what circumstances I have not the penetration to foresee, but my instinct and all the circumstances of my nameless situation tell me that the end is sure and must be early. Go then, and first read the narrative which Lanyon warned me he was to place in your hands. And if you care to hear more, turn to the confession of your unworthy, unhappy friend, Dr. Henry Jekyll. Then Utterson's like, wait, there was a third thing? Where? And Poole's like, I got you, and handed him some thick-ass quest item that was wrapped up and sealed in several places. No idea what was in it, but Utterson tells Poole not to say a word about the note they found to anybody, and that he'll be back after reading some of the shit in the house. And then they'll call the police. So Nick leaves without saying a word, rushes back to his house. Just imagine seeing this tall, 50-ish-year-old man running past all these scared servants, not saying a word to them, knowing there's a dead body in the house. He just leaves really quick. He doesn't even tell anybody else. Like, Poole's the only one who really knows what's going on. So all these servants are just waiting to see what the fuck happened. And then there's this tall motherfucker who's supposedly a lawyer just right now with all this paperwork. And then there's going to be a dead body. How is that not suspicious? I don't know how anyone didn't suspect Utterson of doing anything, honestly. Would I have been surprised? No. Not at all. This is fucking London. Another night in London! I'm just saying, Double Driver's a great fucking thing. So, that's actually the official ending of the main story. So, I'm gonna go ahead and end this off here, and then the next series, or the next portions, will be the two letters. Lanyon's narrative is going to be the first one, Henry Jekyll's full statement of the case. We're going to go ahead and end this here, because I have to get ready for work. And I didn't realize I had wrote so much that it would be taking this long. My bad. I don't know actually how it's going to look by the time I'm done, but it does fill the timeline for the footage we're going to use today. I wish you all a good time. I hope you enjoyed how this somewhat ended, but you will get your answers in the next installment. It's just going to take me a while to paint shit up. But anyway, yeah. So I'll talk to you guys later. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.